Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the January 8th meeting of the Columbia Rotary Club. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. And we're going to get things started with our national anthem with Audrey Brown and Rusty DeMess. Thank you, Audrey and Rusty. David Campbell's going to come up and lead us in our invocation.
Thank you. We can bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, as we come together in this new year, we begin to think of all the resolutions that we made about improving ourselves, losing weight, getting in shape, and other things. We also ask that we keep in mind, help us keep in mind the things that will really make us better this year, and that's our relationship with you. Help us to put you foremost in our lives, and help us to follow the four-way test and to always put others as well. We ask you to bless this food, to nourishment in our body, and ask you to be with us throughout this next year. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, David. All right, while everybody's getting settled, I want to, before we get to visiting Rotarians and guests, I wanted to do a couple of housekeeping things. Car buckets are on the table. Please dig deep into your pockets, into your pocketbooks, and put some change in the car buckets. Also, regarding our social media and our website, I wanted to make everybody aware, we're having some pretty significant issues with our website, so we're doing our best. Mike Dominic and Cynthia Benson have been really working hard behind the scenes trying to get that back up and running, but it's proving to be a bear. Also, I've gotten phone calls from a lot of you that you have seen other businesses advertising on our Facebook page. That, of course, is an error. Some of us who manage social media, we manage multiple social media pages, and something has been happening with the wrong things going to the wrong places. So we're doing our best to get that back up to speed, so be patient. Mike's doing a great job putting everything out there on Facebook, especially for those of you who like to make up your meetings online, so just be patient. I'm going to ask Don Mobley to come up here, and he's going to introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year. I'm Don Mobley with Scott and Company. We do not have any visitors today, and I think we've got one guest. Where's that? Right there. Microphone. I got it.
Hello, I'm Milton Moore, and I have as my guest today a man many of you I've already seen already know. He's in the banking business for many years, goes to the First Presbyterian Church, and a former Rotarian, and I hope we can now make that a current Rotarian pretty soon, Mr. Ed Tucker.
Any other guests? None? Okay, well, welcome everybody. Hope everybody has a good week. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Welcome. Glad to have our guests here. All right, we're going to start back up with Discover Rotary. We've been doing this pretty much this entire year, learning about the different members of our club and what Rotary means to them. So I'm going to ask Rhonda Hunsinger to come up here, and she's going to share her Discover Rotary moment with us.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Libby, for inviting me to do this today. I'm going to start with the basics about me real quickly. I was born in Norfolk, Virginia, and my father was in the Navy, and we relocated to Florida, let's see, probably when I was about 3 or 4 years old, but I saw a couple of the Apollo rocket shots go up, the unmanned ones. Didn't really understand what was going on, but it was pretty cool. Moved here when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I'm a graduate of Remote High School. Not a whole lot happened in that period of time that's exciting to share. I did develop a love of music, the violin, piano, and so I joined our South Carolina Philharmonic Youth Orchestra, which back then was called the Columbia Youth Orchestra. And then I ended up going back to Florida because actually went to Florida because my mother lived there. I met my husband, John Hunsinger, and we got married and had our one and only child, and raised her with an equal passion and love of music. A lot of you know me as Rhonda, the Executive Director of the South Carolina Philharmonic, but some of you also, or more often nowadays, seem to know me as Catherine Hunsinger's mother. So I'm walking down the street with my husband, and there's the mayor. Hey, Catherine's parents, how you doing? Because she's on stage a lot, and she does a lot of performing. So that's been kind of a fun transition. While working with the Philharmonic, people will ask me, what else do you do? Do you volunteer? What are your volunteer things that you do in life? And I say, well, I also volunteer for the Philharmonic. And for those of you that are in nonprofit companies, and probably a lot of you who are not with nonprofits, you know that feeling where you're 24/7, and you do feel like the volunteer of your own organization. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. What Rotary has done for me is it has opened my eyes to, it's kind of pulled me out of the Philharmonic box, which is a place I can get stuck. William could attest to being stuck in the ballet box, I'm sure. And it's good to break out a little bit and see what's going on in the community. I think the best way that Rotary has helped me help the community is actually through the Philharmonic. There are a lot of organizations in this community that need so much help that I've had the opportunity to learn about through Rotary. And people think we do 6 or 7 big concerts on stage and that's it. But we do a lot of community outreach. And this one program we have called Conduct the Phil, we bring an orchestra to a place and we put a music stand up and we put a baton and there's a big sign that says Conduct Us. And then people can walk up and conduct our orchestra. And we take this to places like Transitions, Babcock Center. We take it to the State Fair and Department of Juvenile Justice we've been to a few times. So we give people the chance that would never, ever have the opportunity to see a live performance. Not only see it, but experience the real joy of it. I think that's about everything I should have shared. My Rotary service has helped connect me to so many things in this community, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Hal Stevenson is on duty today for health and happiness, so we all have a treat. Hopefully you'll have some really good, hopefully you'll have some really good news for us.
Thank you, Madam President, for calling it a treat. I would not call it that. Anyway, Happy New Year, everybody. It's great to be here. I got a couple of announcements. Rusty has a new grandson, William Brunson DePass Jr. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just reading what somebody gave me. So y'all gave him your name, right? Is he going to be Rusty the Fourth too, or how are we going to do that? I don't know. Anyway, he was born Saturday the 6th, 6 pounds, 14 ounces, 19 inches long. Former President Mark Sullivan and his wife Fran had a baby girl on January 2nd. I think that's her first girl, and maybe that means this is a child. All right, and former President, former Governor Ann wanted me to read this letter to you guys. Dear fellow Rotarians, Thank you for your kind gesture in naming me the 2016-17 Rotarian of the Year of the Columbia Rotary Club. I will always cherish this recognition as well as the friendship of all of you. Happy New Year, most sincerely, Ann Walker. Ann's in the back. Thank you, Ann. All right, it's not going to probably get anybody in trouble because Bob Crutchfield is not here, but I am curious, how many people will be pulling for Georgia tonight? And how many are going to pull for Alabama? How many are not going to watch or care what it's doing? All right, well, I want to remind you Gamecock fans that we were all pulling for the SEC because we actually get more money, you know, the higher our SEC teams go. So anyway, it'll be good. Go Gamecocks. Okay, so I know that, you know, being the first meeting of the year, you know, this is not going to surprise anybody. I just pulled some statistics off about resolutions. Y'all could probably guess these, but somebody did a survey. So the top three actually were all 37%. Of course, some people make multiple resolutions, but you can guess. Eat healthier. It's always helpful for us when we're here on Mondays. Get more exercise and save money. Those were all 37% of what the resolutions were. 24% focus on self-care. Interestingly, there was an emphasis on getting more sleep, which is not so easy to do, but I understand one of the better things you can do for yourself. Then read more, make new friends, learn a new skill, get a new job, take up a new hobby. And then 32% said they aren't making any resolutions for the year. So I wanted to just share my one main one that I was going to resolve to help all of my friends gain 10 pounds this year. So that's it. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, everybody.
So I told my friend Adam Jordan, I asked him a few minutes ago, I said, can we still be friends next week, regardless of what happens with this game tonight? No. I went to Georgia. We have a lot of Georgia fans, not as many Alabama fans in this room, so, but yeah, Adam, it's all good. And I'm going to sit on my sofa tonight and watch this game. I'm not going to spend $6,000 or $8,000 to go and, like Adam said, possibly see my Bulldogs lose. So I hope it's a wonderful game and a spirited competition for everybody. It'll be nice SEC money in the bank, so it'll be good. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to ask Ms. Dot to come up here, and we're going to get started with our speaker. All right, Ms. Dot Rao.
Oh, you all don't know how happy I am to see all of you today. I have been stuck in snow in Pawleys Island for the last 5 days, and I skidded home to Columbia in the last big chunk of snow. Fell off my car out here in the parking lot. I mean, people say, you're one of them. How do you get stuck in snow in Pawleys Island? It was a surprise. But anyway, I'm glad to be here and was happy when Stephen asked me if I would introduce the program today. And I can't think of a better person right now, actually, that could do that, because I have such a long history with the arts in Columbia. And so it's a real privilege for me to stand up here today and just tell you that once again, the motto I used for so many years, the arts are alive in Columbia, South Carolina. They're still a great economic development tool, and I can tell you all that the funding has never been what it should be, and we all know that, and that's probably across the country. But the passion of the arts keep it alive. I was thinking last night back to William has been here through 31 seasons. He is the largest arts organization in the state. He came here in, I guess, the mid-'80s, is that right, William? And he has built a ballet company that has traveled all around the Southeast. He has shown the ballet, introduced it to over 500,000 kids. And I can tell you from that, so many children grew and grew in confidence, poise, and we're better students because of having been exposed to the arts. I think back to, many of you might remember when Walt Allison Grady came to Columbia. It was back, I think, maybe in the early 90s. He came here, Italy via San Francisco, and here to head up Union Switch and Signal. And he came into my office and introduced himself, and he said, culture is such an important part, arts are to my family. So I introduced him to the community by having him give our annual talk at our fundraiser. And I have to tell you all, William had just returned from California, and he had gotten a new hip. And William said, "Oh, Miss Dot, I'm going to dance for your fundraiser." And I said, "No, William, I think you just got a new hip 6 weeks ago." He said, "I don't care, it's money, I'll dance." So I can tell you all, if you want to bring up money, William will dance for you. And I just noticed as he came in that he's always colorful. And I think sometimes we do compete in our dressing. But he has won the award today. He has no matching shoes. So if you like the color of his suit, I want you to check out the color of his shoes. Also, let me say to you all that William has more energy and passion, I think, than anyone I have met in the arts. He is an incredible motivator for young people. Last year I was in Georgetown and friends said they were going to the ballet. I said, I didn't know Georgetown had one. They said, "Oh, your ballet company, Columbia City Ballet, is here." I said, "Well, I want to go." They said, "Well, it's sold out." I said, "Right on, I'm going." And I did go, and it was wonderful. So let me tell you all that it's a real pleasure for me to introduce William to you today. And I hope you all will be motivated, encouraged, and proud of the arts in this community, and proud of what he does and the way he carries on year after year after year. First of all, though you all don't know that he danced with San Francisco Ballet, the Winnipeg Ballet, the Joffrey Ballet, and he has danced all over the world with the most famous ballet companies around the world. He has brought the creme of the creme to Columbia, and he is the creme of the creme. Please welcome William Starrett.
Thank you. I feel like I know most all of you here, and when I love talking about the ballet company, of course. And so, what's important, I think, is that what do you want to hear about? And we're mainly leaders, business leaders here today. So I want to lean on a little bit more of the business part of the Columbia City Ballet, and at the end we're going to have some time for question and answer. I'm going to talk really fast because there's so much to talk about. We have a slide projection. First of all, I want to introduce my Director of Marketing. This is Alexandra Seabree. Alexandra, if you'll stand up. She's very, very talented. She does all the graphic design. She does all the buys and sells. She does everything marketing. She designed this. Anything that has to do with marketing she does for the Columbia City Ballet and in every city. So we're going to learn a lot about the Columbia City Ballet today. It's hard for me to see that. Let me see. I guess that's it. Wow. Okay, it's about me personally, I think. And as Dot mentioned, I first danced with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and I was also with the American Ballet Theater in the Joffrey. I first came to Columbia in 1977 by the invitation of Ann Brody, and she just came out of sabbatical, and she invited me to dance Oberon at a brand new production of A Midsummer Night's Dream that she was putting together that was being filmed by ETV. And so I was the only male dancer. I came from New York City, and they made a janitor's closet into a dressing room, and we did the premiere of A Midsummer Night's Dream in 1977 that was filmed on ETV. And next, on January 27th, we're doing Midsummer Night's Dream again, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So that was 40 years ago. I guess almost 40 and a half, I first came to Columbia. Then what does that say, Alexander? Can't see it.
I can
Second part?
projector for you. Your accomplishments?
Oh.
How many works?
Yeah, so you read it. What does it say I did?
How many works you created, William?
I Okay, how many works of art for you?
More than 50.
Okay, 50 brand new ballets.
3,
Okay.
19 original full-length ballets, 10 classical, 23 original narrated one acts.
Okay, so what that is, the 23 original narrated one acts for our educational outreach system program, which I implemented in 1991. So most ballet companies, well, we're going to talk about education later. So let's go on to the next one. Oh, that's helpful. Thank you. Wow. All right, and that's just pictures of me when I was dancing. As Dot mentioned, I had a hip replacement in 1999 that was covered on Dateline. NBC, 22 million people saw it. So let's go to the next one now. So what does this say? Read it for me.
Company history, William.
Okay, so Ann Brody was our founding director, and it started in 1991. This is our 57th season and my 31st year as the artistic director. I was first the assistant director in 1985 and became the full director in 1986. What else does this say?
How many cities you've toured?
The company has toured, the company has performed in 50 different cities in South Carolina. So I didn't even know there were 50 different cities in South Carolina. So on our 50th anniversary, we added it up, and we were really proud that we had performed. So we're not just in the big cities, we're also the resident ballet company for the city of Savannah, the city of Sumter, and the city of Hartsville. A lot of people don't know that. We just finished an 8-city tour of the Nutcracker, and that included Florida, and Savannah, and Charleston. And I'm going to give you some numbers here. We just, one morning I was on the edge of my bed and I said, why did God do this to me? What is the hardest thing you can possibly sell? Vacuum cleaners, cemetery plots. I'm selling ballet in the South. What could be harder than that? There's no tailgating of ballets. So, what's staggering is we just sold, just Nutcracker, just now in Columbia, we sold over $200,000 worth of tickets to the Nutcracker. Round of applause. Who can imagine? Who can read that? So I had my staff add up. In the Nutcracker, in just the last 5 years, we've sold over $7 million worth of tickets just to the Nutcracker in the last 5 years. We've sold, yeah, round of applause, thank you. No, that's wrong. We've sold 1,422,000 tickets to the Nutcracker in the last 5 years, and $7 million worth of tickets in the last 5 years. That's including everyone. We've also been able to pay $3,076,000 in payroll in the last 5 years. The Columbia City Ballet, that's unbelievable. $3 million worth of payroll for the dancers and the staff. We've spent over $1.2 million on marketing in the last 5 years. That's in Columbia. That's not the touring, that's just in Columbia. And we've reached over 90,000 children in the last 5 years. So over 500,000 since we implemented the education outreach program. So those are just some really staggering numbers. I think we need good news, and when we have some positive numbers, we need to hear that. So what else does it say?
Ed outreach.
Ed outreach, so we talked about that. So now let's talk about ed outreach. So normally, ballet companies across the states, they're really clever, and they give the performance for their dress rehearsal, and that helps pay for the theater. So like when we're getting ready to do Midsummer Night's Dream, they would have all the children come to the schools and see Midsummer Night's Dream. Well, I've never done that because I felt that it wasn't particularly curriculum driven. It wasn't particularly for their children's attention span. It wasn't particularly what the teachers were getting towards at that moment. So I created over 23 different one-act ballets that were curriculum driven. I worked with School District 1 and 2 that were really dealing with topics and subjects that were really important at that time. Last year we did 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, which deals with family values and bullying. And I also I created a brand new ballet called Goldilocks and the Three Bs, Bach, Beethoven, and Beyonce. So all the children wanted to come because of the word Beyonce, but the teachers were thrilled because Goldilocks deals with the topic of consequences, which is very topical, very important today. So we've had huge success on our education outreach, which is very, very important, especially education in South Carolina, of how reaching our children. And last year alone, just in South Carolina, we reached 18,000 children just last year with our education outreach. Such an important part of our mission with the Columbia City Ballet. Our two main main missions are to keep ticket prices reasonable. For the same tickets, and you're going to go to Charlotte, an hour and 10 minutes away, and you're going to pay $95, $110, $120 for the same ticket. So the most you can spend on a ticket is $55, and that's when we have the Philharmonic, or most tickets are $45, the most expensive, and we have them as most reasonable as $20. The most reasonable ticket you can buy in Charlotte is $45, our highest price ticket. And that's just part of our mission that is accessible to families, all families. In addition, with our education outreach, we give a coloring page. So every child that comes into the 18,000 children, we're given 18,000 ticket vouchers for their parents, because they can take that voucher home, and accompanied by an adult, they can come and see that evening ballet for free. So when we just showed them Twas the Night Before Christmas, with that coloring page, they could come back as a family with their brother and sister and see the Nutcracker for free. And that's just really important, because in today's economy, that's our adult education. A lot of adults have never been to the ballet. They don't know what to wear, they don't know where to go, they've never seen it before, they're uncomfortable. The children say, "It was great, we gotta go, Mom and Dad, please take me to the ballet." And then as a family, because they have the ticket voucher, they can go as a family unit. And that's just been hugely successful, and a huge part of our mission at the Queen City Ballet is education. The next, Dracula. So we do 5 performances a year, typically. And our Dracula was our highest selling Dracula last year of all time. I created it in 1991. It was our 22nd year doing the Dracula. It continues to be a cult favorite, and it's a great recruiting tool, especially for young people. And there have been a lot of children conceived after the Dracula. I got your attention. It is not for children. That is not the children's ballet. That is all about, it's the adult thing to do at Halloween. We already talked about the Nutcracker and the big success we had. Just now, we sold $215,000 worth of tickets to the Nutcracker just a second ago, which we're really, really proud of. The Midsummer Night's Dream is coming up with Rhonda's, the South Carolina Philharmonic. We have a plan. We had not been able to partner with the Philharmonic in 25 years until last year at Swan Lake. And some key community leaders helped us afford that partnership, and we're continuing that tradition, and we're doing the Mendelssohn full-length production of A Midsummer Night's Dream on January 27th with the full South Carolina Philharmonic Orchestra conducted by Morihiko Nakahara himself. The amazing event of the spring, how the art form can be celebrated with live music the way it was conceived and was supposed to be able to. What an amazing gift that leaders in our community have been able to provide. Let's have a big round of applause for that partnership. Thank you to Rhonda and all her people. Then we're doing our Off the Wall and Onto the Stage, which is such an important ballet, especially today, about our culture and unifying and coming together. When I created the Jonathan Green Ballet about our Gullah culture in 2005, I had no idea the spiritual path it was going to take and how unifying that ballet was. And for the first time, we're performing it during Black History Month at the Township Auditorium. We've never done that. We're also been invited to perform it at, we're working on the dates. We're performing it in Fort Lauderdale, Richmond, Virginia. We're doing it in Savannah and Charleston and at the Township. So that continues to be a very, very important ballet. And if you have not seen it before, I urge you to please try to catch the Off the Wall ballet. It's so topical and so important as we unify as a community. And then we're doing our Body Movement Explored, which is an opportunity for young choreographers, rising choreographers, modern and contemporary dance. We have modern choreographers from throughout South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia that come and participate, as well as the dancers choreograph for one another. So these are brand new works. It's really fun. It's again our partnership with the CMFA Art Space, which we perform these brand new ballets, and at the end, the choreographers come out and you get to visit with them and pick their brains, like, what did this mean, and what was that about, and how did you come up with this idea? And we learn about the craft of choreography and putting that together. It's really, really fun. I encourage you, if any of you are interested, that is coming up also in March. And the last ballet this season is Cleopatra, which I created in 2008, and we repeated again in 2010. Our ballerina that's been our reigning ballerina for 20 years, Regina Willoughby, is retiring. And that is her ballet that she asked if she could retire doing. I created that for her because she looks a lot like Elizabeth Taylor. She's really gorgeous. And it's too early for her to retire, but she has a thriving ballet school in Lexington, and she wants to go out on top. So I encourage you, that will be the last performance of Regina Willoughby during the Cleopatra. This is some pictures of her. She's been an extraordinary dancer. She and her family have been here for 20 years, and her daughter is now grown. She had her daughter during Don Quixote, during 9/11. She's now grown, and she is going to, she's into the company as a apprentice, a trainee in the company, so she's one of the rising professionals. What does that say?
Our campaigns.
Our campaigns. Okay, so contributing to the Columbus City Valley. What's the first one?
Annual fund.
The annual fund, which is just helping us with what we talked about, affording to keep the ticket prices reasonable in our educational outreach. The next one says...
Point you.
Point You campaign. This is the Lexington Medical Center. Let's give them a round of applause. They are amazing corporate support. We were having broken legs in the company. So the point shoes, the girls wear these, only the girls dance on point. The girls are dancing on the tips of their toes. So if the point shoes get too soft through perspiration and dancing so much, they can get shin splints, and their shins and their ankles start to break. And so we weren't able to provide enough point shoes, or the girls were worried they weren't going to have enough point shoes, and they were dancing when their shoes were way too soft. Well, Lexington Medical Center stepped up and said, we don't want any more broken legs, and we are going to match dollar for dollar everyone who donates to the education, to the Point Shoe campaign. And we spend $28,000 a year just on the girls' shoes a year. So to keep them safe, thank goodness for the Lexington Medical Center that they matched that campaign. So if you're interested, we've had school children put together pennies. It's a big campaign, $28,000. And so if you're interested in donating, that's a wonderful way to help the company. And then Adopt a Dancer. This is a wonderful, fun campaign where you get a little bit closer to the dancer and learn more about each dancer. And it's really sort of just a fun campaign. We have receptions and parties and dinners and things just so that the patrons who adopt the dancers get to know them a little bit closer. A principal dancer is about $2,000, a quarter valley dancer is about $1,000, and a soloist is $1,500. So that certainly does not pay for their salaries. It's just a fun fundraising event that it's typical nationally that this goes on to adopt the dancer. And that's it. So I want to talk about sort of the business end. So how does the Columbia City Valley's nonprofit, 57 years, so how do we fund and how do we, well, typically as a nonprofit, we're dependent on corporate contributions, individual giving, private donations, and public funding. And so the company's budget this year is 1.6. With the creation of the Jonathan Green Valley, it's been as high as 2.5. This year is 1.6. And what's our biggest concern, ticket sales are a little bit too strong of a part of our budget. So in a nonprofit organization, you do not want to have the gambling part of your budget such a strong component. So the great part about telling you how ticket sales are strong is that people want to see the art and that it's valued and it's something that people are really proud of in the community. The downside of that is that as a business method, you do not want to have the that you can depend upon budget number to be so strong. So our job is to get more funding that we can really count on. So unfortunately, there is no, when the clock strikes 1, the Columbia City Valley has no funding. We are not a line item by the city. We have to start from ground zero at the new fiscal year. So that is not a strong way to have the largest performing arts organization in the state. So that is something we really have to address and look at. We are so dependent on public funding, which has been stronger. Where we're weak is individual giving and corporate funding keeps dwindling. What's hard for us is to get to the individual corporation. The days of getting personal relationships with the corporations are getting harder and harder. They're hiding behind the computers. And so really getting a relationship and getting a one-on-one and a face-to-face is getting harder and harder and harder. I want to encourage all of you for nonprofits, Sister Care, Harvest Hope, any one of a nonprofit, and same with all businesses. It's so difficult to, our staffs are so small and we want to keep our staff small, but it's so hard if you don't return our phone calls. it's really difficult, I'm going to scold you all for a little bit, is because we have such a small staff. What's really stronger for us to say, I'm sorry, William, we don't have funding for you this year. Return my phone call and tell me, because I'm going to persevere. I have a phone log, and it's my job. My board of directors wants me, well, you've got to try him again. Call him back. See what you can do. Because we're so dependent on that funding. So it's much better for us as a nonprofit with a small staff. I'm sorry, William, I'm trying really hard. Our budget didn't come through. I can't fund you this year. Please come back to me in April. But don't make me keep calling through March to the following April. So we're going to open up for questions. Yes?
Where do you recruit? What's the best way for you to recruit your dancers?
Okay, well that's a great question. We have national auditions all over the country. I try to keep a third of our company African American and a third of our company from South Carolina. We have big auditions every year in New York, Atlanta, and LA. Sometimes also in Boston, it just depends. There have not, as late, been a lot of transition, a lot of changeover. I've retained most of the dancers, and that's a good thing. But a lot of dancers aren't moving around as much because the economy has been so iffy. So it's a year contract. We have 30 dancers, and they sign a contract every day on Main Street. Our offices are on Taylor and Main. You're going to see 30 professionals come in, and they take class every morning. The dancers are never graduate, they're always a student. So every morning they take a class to improve, keep their tone, and get better and keep in shape. And then we have rehearsals all day, all afternoon, Tuesday through Saturday, and they have Sunday and Monday off. When we're on a touring schedule, they work 6 days a week and they get 1 day off. Yes, sir?
Could you give us a little background on this Jonathan Green?
Yes, I will.
It hasn't been done anywhere else. This is a new production.
This is a new production for 2005, and it's, what's very important about this production is it has to do with our culture here in South Carolina, and that this is something regional that can send a message to the whole country. In 2005, I was honored by the governor with the Verner Award, and Jonathan Green was the keynote speaker. And we kept being shuttled over here for a photograph and meet the governor over here, and so we got to visit a lot throughout the day. And Jonathan, Google him, his paintings show in museums all over the world. He's from the Gullah culture. He paints from his Gullah childhood memory. He graduated from the Chicago School of Art and Design. So he donated a painting to the Columbus City Ballet as a fundraiser gift. And I was just dumbstruck. His paintings are about $100,000. So I didn't know what to say, but out of kind of gratitude and being social, I didn't know what to give back, equally. And I said, well, that's incredible. I'm going to make one of your paintings into a ballet. And so I didn't even know what the heck I was saying. But the whole board of directors was there, and they were very excited about the award, and we had a big reception at the governor's mansion. And before the end of the night, you know how someone tells someone a secret, and someone tells someone else, and did you hear what he was going to do about it? Before the end of the evening, it was a full-length ballet, and it cost $1.2 million, which is the truth. And so Jonathan, being so generous, he flew me to his home at that time he lived in Naples, Florida, and he had photographs of all of his paintings that were all over the world, and he allowed me to look at all of his paintings. And so he would share with me the meaning behind the paintings, and the hardest part was picking which paintings I could bring to life and which would tell the story of not only his life with the Gullah culture and how that has evolved and what that's brought to the country, to the world really. And so it was 3 years in the making. The first ladies of Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina were the head key people of the fundraising of the gala event. And since then, we performed in Chicago 2 different times. We performed in Washington, D.C. 2 different times. We've had an extensive tour all throughout Florida, and it continues to tour and be a very, very important ballet, which tells of our Gullah history. But what I did not know is what a spiritual journey that was going to be. And so many of Jonathan's paintings are uniting our cultures and uniting. Really, the Gullah culture is a blend and a melting pot of what the slaves that were freed, what they learned from their Caribbean roots and the different segments and regions of South Africa, and what they learned on the plantations here in South Carolina. And that melded, and that's what the culture of Gullah was formed. And so really the melding of this ballet brought us a spiritual togetherness. And this is so important today, and how uniting and really working together and coming together is what's important, and such an important message today. And so that's why this ballet. Yes, sir.
You said 1.6 million budget. What percent of that is public financing?
The public financing is a little less than 200,000. So if you
1.4 from sponsors and tickets.
we receive about 1.4, yes, from sponsors, ticket sales, individual giving, and corporations. So, yes, sir.
Gullah was not unique to South Carolina, was it?
No, it was the goal of the slaves that were freed. They were all the way from Wilmington, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. So, and Jonathan was in Garden City, right there next to Savannah. And so, it is the whole southeast coast, yes, sir.
The other question, you mentioned that you were the city ballet from Savannah.
Yes.
I would think as artsy as Savannah is, they would have their own. What does that really mean to the Columbia Ballet to go to Savannah and be their city ballet?
Well, it's fantastic for us because I could not retain the caliber of dancer that I have if I can't perform more. So the most important thing for a dancer is, of course, to be paid, but the second thing is to be able to perform and dance a lot. And so I'm able to, and that's another challenge I have. The biggest challenge I have is the Charlotte Ballet, the Richmond Ballet, and the Louisville Ballet. They keep stealing our dancers because their contracts are longer. So my job is to have a longer contract. So once I mount the Nutcracker, which is so expensive, what's wonderful is that I can also perform this production in Savannah, and I can go to Charleston, and I went to Florida just outside of Orlando. I'm taken to Manning, I go to Hartsville, I go to Sumter. And so I can have lots of performances for the dancers, and the contract is longer. So then I can say it's a 25-week contract as opposed to a 21-week contract, or a 32-week contract as opposed to a 37-week contract. And then I can retain the dancers longer. So the city of Savannah's ballet company closed, as did the city of Charleston. And so they invite us. We're the only ballet company. They have a non-compete clause. Unlike our Cobra Center, they have a non-compete clause in Savannah. So there's not another dance company allowed within 30 days. And so we've been invited through the city that runs their theater to be their official Nutcracker. And they allow us to come 2 other times. So we do Dracula there, and we do our spring production there. We'll be doing Off the Wall there as well. So that's an amazing gift that Savannah has embraced us. The same in Charleston. That's a great question. So it's important. Also, I've rehearsed and we performed the ballet in Sumter and Hartsville, and so by the time they get to Columbia, they are really good. And it makes the production so strong. You know, Columbia is the best audience. We did sell out in Savannah, which I'm really proud to say just now. We also sold out in Florida. So how did we get to Florida? Well, I'll tell you, we were in Dover, Clover, South Carolina, and one of the children, so this is also a unique fact, when we dance in Sumter, I auditioned Sumter children, and we become ensconced in the Sumter community. So the Sumter children are part of the Sumter Nutcracker. The Hartsville children are part of the Hartsville Nutcracker. And we have auditioned in all these cities in August, and they rehearse from August clear through the Nutcracker time. Because it's professional, the caliber has to be really, really high. And we send ballet masters and assistants to go out and rehearse them. So they're in children-appropriate roles, but they're really dancing. And then parents and people come, and it's really a part of the community. We're marketing there, but we do promotional events there. So we're really part of that community. But we're reaching the lives of, this year was over 900 children performed in the Nutcracker in all of these different cities. So that's a really big, important outreach and an important part of being an artistic ambassador for the city of Columbia and the state of South Carolina. So, back to Clover. So the daughter was a Sugar Plum Fairy attendant. She grew up and she came to USC. She had a great experience when we performed Nutcracker in Clover. She grew up and she was a marketing major at USC. Her mother was visiting and she knew me and she loved the experience her daughter had had. We were at Starbucks and she grabbed me at Starbucks. And she said, my husband just became the president of South University, South State Florida University, and we need a Nutcracker. And so the husband became the president of the university, and they brought us there. They sold out the first time. They brought us last year for Beauty and the Beast, and they brought us back this year. We sold out again, the Nutcracker, and we received our bonus because we sold out. So round of applause there, in, just outside of Orlando. Yes, sir.
What percentage of the premier ballets in the country are nonprofit? Is that the standard model?
Yes, sir. All ballet companies are nonprofit. The profit-making things are like Broadway shows, but ballet companies are typically, they are all nonprofit. That's a great question. As are symphonies and operas, they're all nonprofit. That's a great question. Yes, sir.
Wait, do you get any money from Richland County?
Yes, sir, we do. We persevere, and I want to shout out to Seth Rowe and Jim Manning as a huge advocate for the arts. Greg Pierce. We work very closely with the county council because we do perform throughout the county. We're a big partnership with the Richland County Public Library. A lot of people don't know. We're big about partnerships. We perform for free at the Richland County Public Library downtown, and we're proud to say we're the first ones to get to perform at the new theater. If any of you haven't seen the Richland County Library at Sandhill, Village at Sandhill, we opened the theater. We sold out the performance, our educational outreach performance. But we have a great relationship with Richland County. We wish it was more, of course, but we're very grateful for the funding we do get from Richland County.
And you get money from the City of Columbia?
And we get money from the City of Columbia. Absolutely. We get probably our largest single funding from the City of Columbia.
How about Lexington County?
Lexington, we are working with them right now. We're working on the council. We're working through Lexington County, and we're working with the Central Carolina Community Foundation. If any of you know any of them, if they're here in the room, we're up for a big grant with them to perform free at the new amphitheater that was built in Lexington County. And Central Carolina Community Foundation is helping us. We're hoping that we receive this grant, but it has to be matching funds. So that's tomorrow. I do a speech for the Central Carolina Community Foundation. So reaching out to Lexington is very important. We've also received funding in the past from Forest Acres, which we have not been getting of late, but we have received funding from them as well. Yes, sir.
What's the biggest conflict between the orchestra and your ballet in terms of y'all working together? You mentioned you were doing it. Is it the cost factor?
Yes, it's the cost factor. And what we've come up with, all of you know Gail Morrison, and she had this brainchild that she wants to come up, we haven't come up with a good working title. We think it's the Dream Team, but we're looking for 12 members that will give, 12 individuals that will donate $2,500 a year for the next 5 years, and that will afford us to have live music for the next 5 years. The Charlotte Ballet has live music. Most major cities have live music. That's a big difference of us and other ballet companies, is we can't afford live music. We hadn't had it for 25 years because we couldn't afford it. It's roughly about $30,000 to have 2 performances with the Philharmonic, with the orchestra. And so $2,500 from 12 people for the next 5 years. Our plan is to have live music every spring for the cities, for the citizens of Columbia. Next year is Sleeping Beauty, the year after that is Cinderella, and the year after that is Romeo and Juliet on Valentine's weekend. So Morihiko Nakahara is so excited about the collaboration, as the whole Philharmonic. We're working with them very closely, and it's our dream to be able to give the citizens of the community live music. And so if any of you know if you want to be on that dream team and pledge $2,500 a year for the next 5 years. Yes, sir?
How does live music affect the number of rehearsals you have?
No, because we will have one. It's all about money, unfortunately. We will rehearse to recorded music, and when we tour, we have to tour to recorded music. But we'll rehearse to recorded music. Morihiko has seen a video from past productions. He will sit in on the rehearsal and look at the tempos and talk with the dancers, and then the Philharmonic will rehearse separately a couple of times, and then we get one rehearsal together at the Coder Center, and then we have the 2 performances. And all of that costs $30,000, a little bit less, $26,000. So that's how we work it out. We have to be inventive, but because of the dollar, but we get to have live music. It's on the 27th. Please get your tickets early because last year's Swan Lake sold out. So, yes, sir.
I've heard that the university and the Coger Center is not the most cooperative and collaborative with other arts. Maybe that's something that can't be discussed publicly, but as both a taxpayer and a graduate of the university, that's very disappointing.
Well, we love the Coger Center, but you know, the way it's structured, that they have each department has to fill their dollar quota, and the Coger Center has to fill their dollar quota too. You know, it was built. There's a lot of history with the Coger Center, and we need to look on that with the city. The city gave the land to the Coger Center. The university manages the Coger Center, but it's the community's theater. So they do let the community book the theater first, which is great. But university events get to come first, and then the community things. The tickets, about 8 years ago, the ticket prices for all community groups were raised 40%. So that's been very, very hard on us. And the Coger Center, we give $1 million to the Coger Center every 8 years. It's very, very expensive. For Dracula, we did 2 performances. We were there 3 days, and it cost us $44,000 to the Coger Center. So that's very, very expensive. But it's hard to realize the company costs $600 an hour to rehearse, the professional dancers, and I have to come up with $49,000 every 2 weeks for the payroll. That's staggering for ballet. So say a prayer for me. And I wake up on the edge of the bed. What did I do? So what great questions. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all you do for us.
All right, everyone, this is the first in, we're making an effort to bring the arts to you a little bit more this year. So William is the first in a long line that President-elect Stephen Creech is working on. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. That was some great information. Stephen is not here today, so next week we will not meet because of Martin Luther King holiday. So we will return, I guess, is that the 22nd? January 22nd. We'll be back on January 22nd. It's a crazy month. So we're going to go ahead and end with song.
Great, thank you so much. Oh, no, that's not it. Thank you.